the Wizards, which Bradley Beal plays for, as bad as they are, I think it's 4-12. Rob G, correct me if I'm wrong. They beat the Nets last night. 149, 146. I don't know if you saw it, Rob.
The Nets should have won the game. The layup.
Oh, my gosh. They had, well, beyond that, they had it in hand. They were up 5. They were up 5. And Bradley Beal gets a rebound, comes down quickly, hits a 3. Then Joe Harris throws a bad inbound pass, miscommunication with Kevin Durant. It gets stolen. Westbrook then hits a 3, and all of a sudden the Wizards are up 1. And then, like you say, TLC, Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot. I like saying that, Luwawu-Cabarrot.
I like
he
TLC.
Misses a point-blank layup.
You can't miss that shot, Chris, and be in the NBA.
You cannot, man.
You can't miss that shot. I mean, that's bad.
It wasn't even, he didn't get fouled. Like, it was a little contested, but it wasn't to the point, you know what I'm saying? We had
you
to
gotta make that
shift his
shot.
body angle or anything. Yeah, it's just a layup he missed. But beyond that, even if they had won the game, Rob, they got a problem. And it is that their defense is horrendous. Colin Sexton, Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, everybody's going for career nights against them. And they are now 6-3 since the James Harden trade. And since then, Rob, they have the best offensive rating in NBA history, which is nice.
Not surprising, which is not at all right.
But it's the worst defensive rating in NBA history. Now, it's only 9 games. And I got them in the East. I mean, when they first made the deal, I said I'd probably take them in the East. I made it definitive, but they got a heck of an offense. I mean, they can get an open shot, as we said last week, Rob, anytime down the floor. Anytime down the floor, they can get an open shot because they just got 3 incredible players, and everybody else is going to get wide open looks because there's so much attention on those guys. But defensively, they got issues, man.
Obviously, they got to tighten that up and get better on the defensive end. They don't have to be stoppers. That's not it. You just can't let people just score at wills, okay?
Right.
Because obviously they have the firepower, right? They can outscore. They're going to outscore most teams on most nights, okay? And they're going to win.
Right.
But you just got, if you're trying to win a championship, you got to play better than that. So they know what the mission is. The one thing that's unbelievable is that they've been able to mesh, Chris. I'm not talking about on the defensive end, but just the 3 guys have been able to mesh. Like, it's worked so far.
Well, offensively, it's And here's a little pet peeve.
It has worked.
Pet peeve of mine, largely because Harden, it's credit Harden, man. I mean, we all knew, obviously, he was a tremendous scorer. And I knew, watching him, I knew he was a great passer, even going back to OKC. Like, when he would come in off the bench.
It's on display now, though, ain't it?
Yes. Oh, now, I mean, you get to see this dude is a phenomenal point guard. Phenomenal. And so I'm glad you're getting to see his whole offensive package on a more regular basis. But Rob, I'm going to say this. I'd like to get your opinion on this. I get every now and then Durant, you might want to sit him out because he's recovering from the Achilles and all that, although I think it's probably perfectly fine. But I get it. You want to be careful.
It looks fine to me. I'll tell you that.
Right. He's playing well. But for the most part, Rob, I don't need Harden or Kyrie sitting out. Like, they got about 50 games to get their act together. Develop the chemistry, get used to playing with each other, strengthen the defense. I don't care, Rob, if they have blown Washington out, because Harden didn't play last night. Just to sit out. They called it a bruised thigh or whatever. He's fine. But if they had blown Washington out, I wouldn't care because I need to see all 3 of them together. They're fine when it's just 2 of them. Right. I mean, defensively is an issue regardless.
But you just said it. Harden didn't play, and they scored 146 points, Chris, or whatever it was.
Any combination of the 2, you're right. It could be Durant and Kyrie. It could be Kyrie and Harden. It could be Harden and Durant, whatever. They're going to be fine. You need the 3 of them out there getting used to one another. Am I wrong?
Chris, I agree. And the more they can play together and develop a chemistry and a bond as you're going forward, you know what I mean? You're going to be better off. And there's still a long season to go. It ain't
Right, they got 50
over.
games or so, something like that.
Something like that. What, Chris? Just quickly, you're in the New York metropolitan area. On Sports Talk, what are they talking about? They can't be talking about the Knicks on the radio, are they?
Yeah, when I'm in my car, I mean, obviously I'm not in there as much as usual, but
right. But do you hear? Is it Nets talk? Is it what? I'm just curious.
More, from what I've heard, and I tend to hear like Hahn and Bart Scott, Alan Hahn and Bart Scott. And then I hear Michael Kay. They got a great show. Michael Kay and Don LaGreca.
Don LaGreca.
Peter
I've worked with LaGreca before.
Yeah, he's fun. They got a nice show. What they do talk some national stuff, but I would say, they're talking more Nets.
Like Nets never got any kind of pull in New York on the radio. So I'm just curious. With those three monsters.
I'm sorry. You got to talk Nets.
Right.
And they're a New York team now.
And they're in Brooklyn. If they were in New Jersey, you could easily ignore them, as you know, Chris. Right. Easily.
Right. But they're such a national story and a big national story that you got to talk them. But I probably honestly haven't heard enough to give you a definitive answer. But
and the other thing, too, you were talking about the defense. Obviously, the Nets have three of their coaches, Nash, D'Antoni, and Amari Stoudemire. So they're all from that terrible Phoenix defense.
Man.
So now and they had a great offense, but they didn't play defense. Not enough to win a championship. So that's not good. They need to work on that. And if I was ownership or whatever, dude, I'm thinking about the best defensive. I might add a coach to my roster.
Well, they hired Ime Udoka from San Antonio, who's he's their defensive guy. And obviously, I mean, you would think he knows defense being in San Antonio. But the thing is, Rob, they got to, and I don't know that they're not, but they got to give him the control and ability. Like they should be spending the majority of their practice time on defense.
They don't need offensively. What is there to Chris? They can score. We know that.
Right. And
I totally agree.
And it's a lot of my turn, your turn, but still, they're that good. Even if it's not the perfect, Golden State ball movement, player movement, all that, they're so good that they can score. But defensively, and so Nash has to break out of that D'Antoni mode if he already hasn't, and focus on the defense. That's just 100%. All there is to it. Both Rob and I picked the Nets to get out of the East. He's a little stronger on them than I am, but what are your thoughts? Is it time to worry about this big three and their atrocious defense, which is right now, since they've been together 9 games, the worst in NBA history?
But on the flip side, the best offense as well, which is very weird.
877-99 on Fox.
All right, Sean in Sacramento, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. First up, what's up, Sean?
My uncle's from another mother, man. Hey, I would ask how y'all doing, but Rob, man, it sounds like you were about 47 people, a pair of Jordans, and about 400 wings about to go out of that house in the next 2 weeks. Man, what happened?
Can you tell us, Rob, how many pairs of Jordans you had to buy? At least say no. I mean, just say something. Yes, no. God,
Sean, you got something on the net?
We can only guess. 18
I was just going to say, man, if anybody thinks you're going to stop hating on Tom Brady, they long confused, because you're going to be hating him for about the rest of your life after this bad week. But my take real quick, man, is...
Oh, you got Tampa Bay winning?
Man, I think Tampa Bay going to do it, man. I mean, Kansas City has looked great, and they keep on hitting this on and off switch. But I done learned my lesson on betting against Tom Brady. I'm pretty sure Rob has too after all that, man. He's Mr. Clutch.
Sean, speak for yourself, please. He threw 3 picks in the second half.
Yeah, obviously has.
Speak for yourself, Sean, please. Do not pull.
I love you. I hope they paint them other 3 walls for you tomorrow too, brother. But my take real quick, man, is I think the Nets made one of the biggest mistakes ever getting rid of Allen, man. Everything that they're missing right now is this protection around that rim. And even though they got James Harden, and the offenses look great, they could dang near score 150 points, and just like you saw the other night, and they still lose. So I don't know what else they need on that team.
The roster's not complete, Sean. Call back when they make a trade for Andre Drummond.
Well, they
or some
not a
big
trade,
guy.
but maybe he'll get bought out.
Bought out or picked up.
I will say this, Robin.
The roster's not complete.
Your
There's no way
on this. Now look, it's hard to argue with getting James Harden, but I liked them to win the East before that.
No, I did too.
The only
I liked
question
the
at
way
that
the team
point was
set
just
up.
Kyrie. Was he going to be all in?
Kyrie seems like he's fine
seems
now.
Like he is right
He's
now.
just playing
but
ball.
He seemed like he was before, but he seems fine. But you know what I'm saying? Like they had, I can't begrudge them for doing that. But you know what I mean? Like they were great already, and they had all the defenders and role players too.
You think that's a complete roster? I don't think.
No, they got spots, but
Right.
it ain't like they getting tremendous players with that. But they don't need them. But we'll see if they can get an Andre Drummond. That'd be big time for them.
Yeah, if they were able to do that. All right, speaking of Andre, let's go to Andre in Massachusetts. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. Andre, where are you in Massachusetts that you can't say the city? I mean, are you in a small town?
Yeah, we don't have cities in tourist town. I'm calling from the Cape. So Cape Cod, tourist town. So our city wouldn't be Hyannis, famous for Hyannis Port and the Kennedy.
Hyannis Port, right. Yep.
Yeah, but it's in no way. I mean, we call it a city because this is the Boondocks, but it's in no way, shape, or form.
Okay.
A city. And shout out to Andre Drummond, pride of Connecticut, St. Thomas More. But to the Nets, my point is, and we mentioned the great coaching staff, M.A. Udoka, to go along with D'Antoni, Steve Nash. They brought in Amari. My point is, they are going to, in the buyout market, they brought in Iman Shumpert, who's a defensive stopper. They're going to corral people, I feel. I think the Drummond possibility is real. And then, to your point, Rob, when you have all that much firepower, the Kansas City Chiefs, your objective is to outscore teams rather than do what needs to be done in defensive. And like the Chiefs who brought in Spagnuolo, I think Udoka will step up in playoff time when it comes to firming up that defense. And they're the class of the East. I got the Nets and the Sixers as the favorites at this point in time. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, Sixers
appreciate
look good. Sixers look good. All right. Thank you, Andre. We're going to get into this with our next guest. Kerry Kittles played with the Nets, made 2 NBA Finals, and he'll be able to fill us in on that.
You weren't covering them then, were you? Yeah,
I did cover him with Kerry. Not when they went to the Finals, but before that.
Before that, right.
Yeah,
okay, that's
before
what I
the
thought.
Finals. NBA Finals. Played for the Nets, was a star with them. So we're going to talk to him about his former team. Our man, Kerry Kittles. Kerry, what's happening, brother?
What's up?
Hey, what's going on, Chris, man? Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on, man. Now, look, you and I talked when they made this trade, or text one or the other, and you loved it. Are you a little worried about the defense? It's been the worst in NBA history since the Harden trade. I know it's a short sample size, but are you concerned that could keep them from, maybe going as far as they should?
Yeah, well, I would say early on that's definitely been an issue with this group. James Harden hasn't been necessarily known to be the best defender in the NBA, and others as well. But I think mostly what they're missing is the presence of Jared Allen and what he brought anchoring that defense, covering up for their mistakes. That's definitely an issue. They have trouble still just cleaning up the boards. Second chance points is huge, and they've been lacking in that area as well. So there's some growth to be made on the defensive end of the court, but I'm still thrilled to be able to bring in such an offensive phenomenon, James Harden, and his ability to score and pass the ball.
And, Kerry, you're not going to ask these guys to turn into defensive specialists. That's not going to happen. It's about getting stops in playoff games and and making people work for baskets. I mean, isn't that really what it's about?
Yeah, I think Kevin Durant got asked a question after last night's game about defense, and it's sort of like he had to acknowledge that part of it is just guys just keeping guys in front of them, right? That one-on-one ISO defense, the ball gets reversed, a swing pass or a driving kick, and you're there in front of the guy, and it's can you contain him? And that's kind of where they struggled. Earlier on this season, they had problems with miscommunication. I thought part of that was Steve Nash and his staff just kind of changing some things up. And so there were some miscues with that. But I think now it's more glaring that they're just having trouble just keeping guys in front of them. And so hopefully they're able to clean it up maybe with, some roster changes. I heard maybe Shumpert is coming in. So some more defensive-minded guys would definitely help that team.
Kerry, in the NBA, it's about team defense because, very few guys can stop a guy one-on-one.
Especially when you can't touch them defensively. You can't touch
right.
anybody.
But so only of the 3 stars, really only Durant is a pretty good defender. Kyrie and Harden haven't been known as defenders throughout their career. When you've got those 2 guys out there, DeAndre is a little older. He can't do what Jaren Allen did. As you said, Joe Harris, the other starter who's a great shooter, but obviously not a great defender. Can team defense make up for that enough when you got or does Kyrie, who's certainly got the athleticism to stay in front of guys to some degree, does he have to really take it upon himself to just focus on that end of the floor, or can team defense make up for not having really good individual defenders?
Yeah, I think you're right. I definitely think team defense, how much are you going to help on certain guys? I think mostly it's the blow-bys. It's just not being able to contain guys. In today's game, they're basically taking away the team defense with 5 guys standing around the three-point line. Where are you going to help from? Especially if the other team has, capable shooters.
Right.
So the team defensive concept is not out the window totally. Obviously in the playoffs, the court gets a little bit smaller in the playoffs. But overall, I think it's really just individual efforts. And like you mentioned, Kyrie, James Harden, they have to do a much better job of taking the onus of stopping their guy whenever they're out there. And I think that'll really kind of help shore up the defensive efforts.
Have you, Kerry, been to the new arena in Brooklyn? Have you been there?
Oh, yes. I've been there quite a bit the last few years, yes.
Okay, so my thing is I covered the Nets. Chris covered the Nets. I covered, when Joe Barry Carroll was there and Willis Reed. This is before you got there.
Did you cover when Derek Coleman whoop-de-damn-do and all that?
No, I was going when Butch Beard was coach. I was going by then. I went to the whoop-de-damn-do, one of the all-time favorite quotes. But I was going to say, playing in New Jersey, and like I said, I covered the New Jersey Nets. Chris did. You're kind of out in that parking lot off the freeway, the highway over there. Not really an urban area or like a field for fans. And now they moved that franchise to Brooklyn in New York City. Do you look at that sometimes and say, man, that would have been awesome to be able to play in that atmosphere compared to the old Brendan Byrne Arena?
Every time I walk in that building, I think it crosses my mind. Every time I come up the subway, usually I take a train into the city, and it's like you come up that subway, and it's like, bam, the arena is beautiful. It's right there. And then inside, I haven't been to a game where it's empty and there's no one in there.
No.
I mean, it's always like almost sold out. And even like on a Tuesday night, there's so many people in Brooklyn, right? And, we had some great teams in the Meadowlands, but the Swamp was the Swamp, right? It was low energy. It was family oriented. Brooklyn is vibing. It's got the scene. It's got the lighting. It's got the younger crowd. It's more energy. So of course, man, I wish I would have played in that arena. Those guys don't know how fortunate they are. Trust me.
I remember, Kerry, when they would play, they would push in crowd noise in the Meadowlands.
Yes,
it would sound like it was really loud, and you'd look around and nobody was clapping or anything. You know what I mean? But it was loud. But I used to always say, if you guys had been like those years you went to the finals with Jay Kidd and all that, if y'all had been in New York, you would have taken the city by storm, because you guys were fun to watch. Running, getting alley-oops, and all that stuff. Let me ask you this. I think that Brooklyn's main competition in the East is Philadelphia. And obviously they've got Joel Embiid. If you think it's another team, feel free to say that. But how do you think Embiid will be we're talking about their defense. How in the world are they going to handle him, if they meet them in the conference with what they have now? Now, maybe they add somebody. Maybe they get Andre Drummond. But as they are now, would he be maybe too much for them to handle?
Oh, yes, most definitely right now. I think he might have shot how many free throws against the Lakers the other day? 13 or something. He is an inside-outside presence, and he's having an MVP type of season for the Sixers, and he demands a lot of attention. And so, of course, when you're thin in the front court like the Nets are right now, you got one big guy, DeAndre Jordan, and you only got 6 fouls to give. I mean, that's a problem. And so, and then now they have some good players around them. So Doc Rivers has done a great job being there so far. So yeah, I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. I think you're right. I think they're a notch above Milwaukee, a notch above the Miamis and the Bostons right now. I'd have to give Philly the nod the way they've been playing. So the Nets will have problems there, but I tell you what, I mean, when I watched the Nets play the other day against, I think it was Oklahoma City, when the big three scored over 25 points, and that's tough to stop, man.
You surprised how well it's come together offensively?
Kyrie, KD, and Harden are offensively, they're scary. They're scary.
Are you surprised at how well it's come together? Because offensively, like you said, they really haven't had any problems on that end.
No, not at all. I think what we saw of James Harden in Houston was a roster that was underachieving a roster, and they gave him the ball a lot, and it had, he just became accustomed to playing this ISO ball and this dribble stuff. And we saw when he first got there though from OKC, flashes of a really versatile James Harden.
Right. Before
all the scoring stuff really emerged, we saw him being a more complete basketball player. And so, falling back into line with now you're joining up with someone else, you have to adjust your game. The same thing LeBron did going to Miami, having to adjust his game to playing with Wade and Bosh. He's done the same thing now, and he's a complete package on offense. I mean, he is a complete package on offense.
He's a phenomenal point guard.
He really is. I mean, leading the league in assists, pretty much. I don't know if he's up there still, but their question is, can they stop turning the ball over, which is a problem for the big three. Those three guys in particular are very loose with the ball, right. And it's like, making smart decisions and then trying to clean up the defensive effort, the 50-50 ball, all the hustle stuff, right, and cleaning up the defensive rebounds. If they could do that, they're going to the finals. They're going to the finals, trust me.
I agree with you. And I got a pair of Jordan Off-Whites, I bet, Plaxico Burress, who said that the bet, you ready for this, Kerry? He bet me that the Nets wouldn't even make the Eastern Conference Finals. That was his bet.
If those three guys are healthy, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough, man. Like I don't know. If those three guys are healthy, you'd have to put them in. I mean, listen, Philadelphia.
Right, they got to be in the conference finals. Right.
I think the only team could Boston play with them? I don't know. I don't think Milwaukee give them any trouble, honestly. Giannis is not a go-to guy at the end of the game, So
you got to put a big guy on Giannis, though. You've got to put a 7-footer pretty much on him. I mean, Durant maybe, but he's too good going downhill. So and drawing fouls, you don't want Durant getting those fouls.
Right.
So you have to put DeAndre Jordan on him.
Oh.
And so
I'm thinking it'll be Jeff Green.
He fouls guys out. I mean, he goes to the rack every time. So
yeah.
But you can shrink the court with him and make him into a passer, and teams have done that really well against Giannis. But man, the Nets, the big three scoring the ball, and you put Joe Harris. You cannot leave Joe Harris. You cannot leave him. And so with those four guys on offense, Jeff Green's been playing great. Some minutes from him I don't know, man. The Nets are going to be a tough out.
They're going to be tough. We got to run to this commercial break, Kerry. We appreciate the knowledge, my man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Anytime,
be careful in that snow.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
All right, brother. Peace. That's Kerry Kittles, former New Jersey Nets star. Keep it locked. It's the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio.